Hey everyone! Well, I have my Hobbyzone Corsair S assembled. The last video I had was actually taking it out of the box. And while the assembly process would normally take probably less than an hour from the time you got it out of the box to the time you got it up in the air, I decided to take some time and kind of weather the aircraft and make some modifications to it before its first flight. Of course, it's still winter in Michigan, so it's not really optimal flying conditions anyway, so perfect opportunity to take some extra time and add some additional details to the airplane. If you remember from my unboxing video, one of my major complaints was the two-bladed prop and the dummy-looking engine on the front, part of the cowl. So those are the things that I attacked first. As you can see, I have the three-bladed prop on there right now. This is actually the one that Hobbyzone or Horizon Hobby offers as a replacement for the Corsair as well as the T28. However, performance is slightly diminished, so I'll probably be actually using this more for a static display prop rather than a flight prop. I did add the Hamilton Standard logos and nomenclature onto the prop. These decals came from Cowl Graphics, and I also made some changes to the factory two-blade prop as well. Added the yellow on the tips as well as the Hamilton Standard decals from Cowl Graphics. This will be the propeller that I'll actually fly with, and this will be the propeller that is more for static and when the airplane is on display. So another one of the changes I made is I installed an actual radial engine. If you can look deep inside the cowl there, I ended up cutting apart the factory cowl, removing what appeared to be more like a wagon wheel rather than a radial engine. And I purchased I believe it's a Durafly Hellcat dummy radial engine, and just took some minor modifications to make that work. But I weathered that and installed that over the factory brushless motor, and that gives it a lot more realistic look than what was on there before. So that kind of covers what changes I've made up front. I had planned on putting on some cowl lines, or some panel lines on the cowl, but I kind of decided maybe to not overdo it and kind of leave it there. Also, if you look on the front of the cowl, you can also see that it is also chipped and weathered. It's got grease coming off of it. So I've added some weathering to it as well as some chips, and painted in around the cowl flaps as well. So continuing with the weathering, if you kind of look down on the top of the aircraft here, there are a couple oil streaks that kind of streak back from the cowl. And then around here where this white tape is, this is actually the tape that they use to seal the gas tank that sat in front of the pilot behind the engine. And so they keep the fumes out of the cockpit, they taped over it. So knowing that this is a fuel filling area, looking at a lot of the pictures of the aircraft in service, I noticed that there's quite a bit of fuel spill and dirt that kind of streams out from around the cockpit. So I added that as well. And then looking at it from the side of the aircraft, you can see it's just got some general dirt and scratches. There's chips in the paint, chips around the canopy section, chipping around here, and some dirt where the canopy would be sliding back and forth. I also added the radio antenna as well. That's actually just a toothpick painted dark blue. And just kind of went around and did general highlights and lowlights using pastels to give it the appearance that it has been in combat. So I did the same on the wings as well. Added a little bit of marks around this area here where the crew would be helping the pilot get in. Of course, the pilot would be coming up here to climb in. They'd be refueling up here. So there should be some dirt and damage, paint damage up here. And then also added the dirt debris, the gun smoke residue that's coming from the 350 caliber machine guns at each side of the wing. And then this surface here is where the ammunition was loaded. So I'd expect to see a lot of chipping and dirt around here. This area here is in the flap, opens up, and that's actually like a step. So there'll be some dirt around there as well. Unfortunately, what I have learned is that when you're dealing with the dark blue, navy blue paint, and you add weathering to it, and then you clear coat over the top of it, almost 90% of the weathering kind of vanishes. In fact, probably you won't even really see it on camera. I had done a lot of white and light gray highlights, and then a lot of dark brown and black lowlights, and then did that around all the panels, and kind of did some streaks coming down vertically from the aircraft sitting on top of the aircraft carrier. And once you clear coated it, they actually all disappeared, so you really can't see that. But one thing that you can see, I've actually added the 50 caliber gun placements on the wings. Normally this is all covered up around here. I went through and actually added some surface texture and chips around where the guns would be placed. And if we look at it from the back side, you can see that I've colored in where the shells would be ejected from, as well as oil streaks back from the guns. There's also exhaust staining that extends back underneath here. This model of the Corsair had its exhaust stacks underneath here. Later ones had additional exhaust stacks up on top. But once again, now that I've clear coated it, it's really difficult to see. But there were there. Another change that I made is I added these Robart strut covers. The landing gear from the factory looked awfully pedestrian, just being wire. So I added these strut covers from Robart, and then also weathered the wheels as well. So it just kind of gives it a more realistic look. Makes it definitely look like the aircraft has been in combat for a little bit, which it would have been. And if you remember from my unboxing video, I did talk that this aircraft was Lieutenant Commander Roger Hedrick's aircraft, and he was the CO, commanding officer of VF-84, which was known as the Wolfpack at the time. And then in May of 1944, they took up a position on the Bunker Hill in the Pacific. Roger was actually part of VF-17, which was the Jolly Rogers, prior to that, but then that group was disbanded from being a land-based Corsair squadron and then moved to a carrier base. So the markings on the aircraft were specific to the Bunker Hill and to VF-84. The yellow on the Cowl here is actually because it participated in the raid in Tokyo. And this aircraft also saw action in Iwo Jima, which was February through March of 1945. We believe the Tokyo raid was around just before Iwo Jima, probably early to mid-February of 1945. However, the entire squadron was lost, except for Roger, when a kamikaze pilot took out the ready room where the pilots were stationed. So that happened in May of 45. So the squadron really only lasted about a year and then was completely knocked out of commission along with the Bunker Hill. So it's kind of a very sad end to their career in World War II. But I'm happy that it kind of paid tribute to it by having a really nice Corsair to fly. So before we wrap this up, I do want to take a little bit of time to pop the cowl off here and give you guys an opportunity to see a little bit of that detail I made on the dummy engine. So remove the 3-bladed prop. I already have 2 out of the 3 screws removed for the cowl, so I'll pull this last one off. Alright, one thing I also did is I painted the inside of the cowl black. What I noticed is that when I cut the center section out, then you could look at it, you'd see that there's a lot of yellow paint on the inside, and that didn't look very realistic. I thought about doing zinc chromate, but decided in the end that a simple black would be beneficial enough. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at the dummy engine here. You can kind of see that it kind of sits around the brushless motor. And what I ended up doing is I made 3 stanchions, 3 standoffs here out of balsa wood, and then I screwed the balsa wood and the dummy engine together, and then the balsa wood here is actually glued right directly to the styrofoam. So it's actually a very sturdy mount. I'm hoping that it's going to be sturdy enough to survive any type of vibration that comes through the engine, as well as any landings and things like that. This will be my first kind of large warbird that I've ever flown, so I'm a little worried about landing this thing. So the engine may end up seeing a little bit of work to reinforce that as time goes on. But it sure makes the aircraft look a lot more realistic with this dummy motor. And again, this came out of the Hellcat. So anyway, that's really about it. The aircraft is it's been weathered, it's been assembled. The entire aircraft, of course, has been clear coated with Tester's clear coat, which really gives it a real nice shine, and of course also seals all the surfaces and protects the weathering. So at this point, the only thing left to do is to set the center of gravity and bind my DX5E and take this thing flying. So hopefully the next video you see with the Corsair will be the maiden flight review. So thanks again, guys. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.